In this video, I am going to discuss a comprehensive autodidactic program of study for Spanish, French, Italian, and German. These four languages have always been the most commonly studied languages in the entire English-speaking realm, and together with English, they constitute the dominant languages of Western civilization, which has been dominant in the world. And so these are probably certainly among the most commonly studied languages on the planet. And therefore, whereas with a lot of other languages, a problem that you face is simply finding materials to use so that you can study with them, with these languages, you might have the reverse problem and simply be overwhelmed with the number of options that are out there and not know that you are choosing the best things that are available to you, with the exception of product lines that are designed for rare and unstudied languages. Probably every single video in my initial series has more than one sets of materials that you can use to study these languages. And so with due regard to my own previous videos talking about choosing materials based on your learning style and the pedagogy that is employed in the manuals, in this video I'm going to propose to you sort of a challenge to use a group of materials that put together comprise and constitute what I believe is a particularly interesting and therefore enjoyable and therefore efficacious means of learning these languages. And the particular grouping of materials that I'm going to propose to you has the further incredible benefit of you can use it not only to learn one of these languages, but actually the special part of it is that you can use it to learn all of these languages in sequence with greater and greater facility. And with that, let me indulge in a little preamble about the possibilities of multilingualism. In our day and age, there is a spirit that has been pervading the educational system more and more that says, whereas multilingualism might be a nice ideal, what we mean by that is, well, maybe everybody can learn one language, but to learn lots of languages, well, learn several languages, well, even, that's not possible. That sentiment has dominated every educational institution that I've ever known, and therefore most people that I know tend to share that, perhaps unconsciously and not reflecting upon it, but I think most everybody I know would say, among these four languages, sure, I would love to learn one of them. I tried to learn one of them, and know all of them? Well, yeah, that would be wonderful, but that's not possible, is it? Well, yes, it is possible. It is possible. I know all of them, and I'm not the only person alive who knows all of them, and there have been in the past more people percentage-wise who knew them when there was a different kind of educational sentiment regarding learning languages. And if you would like to know all four of these languages, you can know them too. There are many ways that you could do that. There are many ways that you could go about learning them. Particularly, this group of languages is such that they're all culturally related, and they share, most of them, a genetic relationship as well. So in terms of their vocabulary, this is a particularly sort of self-reinforcing set of languages that you can know. And as I just said, there are many ways that you could go about learning them. But this autodidactic program that I'm now going to propose to you, that again has this special feature of facilitating the study of each in sequence, does that by using basically the same course content, the same material. And the first and real challenge to access this program is to track some of these materials down, because a lot of them, unfortunately, are out of print. You can track them down. All sorts of sources like eBay, actually, you can get them quite cheaply. You might have to hunt for a while and keep a watch out. But most of the materials that I'm going to talk about were issued in the 1960s, probably. And so there is a window of opportunity that is closing if you would like to take up the challenge and use this system of learning. The materials that I would recommend to you to constitute an autodidactic program of study for these languages would be a linguaphone course and a Berlitz course from the second video that I made for Berlitz. So they've had a number of different names, sort of Berlitz comprehensive courses with audio. Also the Berlitz self-teachers without audio from the first Berlitz video that I made, and a made simple course, and different for each one would be, if you felt the need for it, a sort of a comprehensive reference grammar or workbook for verbs or other hard aspects, and culminating with the use of the passport books of the Practice and Improve and Practice and Improve Plus series. The virtue, there are two virtues to the use of these materials. The great majority of them have an actual storyline. They teach a sort of a pedagogical didactic story that is, perhaps it's not a great work of literature, but there's a lot of things that are offered as fiction that are not as well written and as interesting as these stories are. And because they are stories, they catch your attention and carry you along through the learning process. But more than that, just as important as that, is the fact that the story and the course content for these materials, go back and watch the videos for each one of these that I just proposed to you, is the same. That is to say, I was always aware of the fact that the Linguaphone courses from the 1960s had this feature that I thought was a special and unique feature to them, that of the 60 lessons in each course, the great majority of those, and all of them earlier on in the course, were parallel and exactly the same in their content in all of their courses. So, for example, lesson 8 might be comprised of talking about the furniture in your living room and comparing it with the furniture in your neighbor's living room. And another lesson might be taking a bus ride and that kind of thing. And so the virtue of that was that if you know the content of the lesson ahead of time, then when it comes to learning the actual means of expressing it, that task is obviously greatly facilitated. If you've done it for one language, when you use that same course material for the next language, it's all the easier. So the Linguaphone courses are not a storyline, but the Berlitz courses are, even the Made Simple, which are bird's eye overview grammar are, and the other Berlitz course is as well, and certainly the passport books of Practice and Improve are very much a storyline, a narrative, sort of radio drama type pedagogical programmed introduction of the elements of the language. And so, as I said, I believe that this would be particularly interesting to work through story after story after story. These courses are also very culturally attuned to the individual nuances of the culture and of the language, despite being programmed along the same lines. So these really take you into the culture at the very beginning. They're a bit more interesting and intelligent than most of the courses that are more easily obtainable in press today. And they are the same, so that the first language that you learned, you might have to work rather hard at, but it's always the case that the more experienced you become as a language learner, the easier it becomes to learn the next language. But with this particular program of study, that would be elevated to the nth degree. You would know the course content before you came to it, certainly by the time you came to your third language and your fourth one with it. I propose that this is something that is eminently doable by anybody who has the will and the motivation to carry through with it. What would it take to do this? I believe it would take probably about, well, 2 hours a day, and let me go off on another, not digression, it's relevant tangent to that. The kind of person that could carry through with this program of study is the kind of person that, going back to the ancient Greek philosophers, would ideally have a life structured around, we wouldn't want to call it an amount of leisure time, but having a certain amount of time to yourself every day for continued self-cultivation, for continued self-improvement. And if you can have a couple of hours in your life every day that you do that, that you devote to reading and writing and thinking and this kind of thing, if you can devote 2 hours of that to language, not just learning, it would soon snowball into polylingualism, polyglottery, knowing these languages and using and enjoying them. If you had 2 hours a day, when you embarked upon your first language, you might need to use all of that for actual study. And then when you got to your second language, then you would have to keep maintaining the first one, perhaps keep reading the first one or listening to the first one for half an hour a day and spend an hour and a half on the second language. With the third language, you would have less and less time for studying and more need to sort of maintain, lest you lose and rust away the ones that you learned. But by the time you got through all four of them, when you had it down, you could either have half an hour a day for reading or watching movies or listening to recorded books in each of these languages, or you could do that on alternate days or along these lines, as long as you maintained about that amount of sort of mental cultivation time throughout your life. This is something that you could benefit from and profit from. So how long would it take you to do this? I don't believe it would take all that long, presuming it's impossible to give a time frame, but if you were serious about it, particularly because of the greater ease of learning each of these languages in turn with the same autodidactic program, I certainly think that this is something most people could probably do. In about 5 years' time, you could come to know these languages, certainly within a decade, but probably much less than that. I would recommend, if you're going to take up this challenge, in what order should you learn them? Probably the best order would be the one that I put in the title: Spanish, French, Italian, and then German. That could certainly be done in any other combination, given greater interest, and initially that would be the motivation would be an important thing. But given just a general desire to know all of them, I think that the sequence I propose is good. You could do Italian first and Spanish third, but I think that the sequence I propose is probably the best one, because these two languages, Spanish and Italian, are phonetic, whereas French is not, and so they're a little bit easier to learn initially and to spell, that is. And I propose learning one of them. Spanish is more common generally, you get more chance to use it. You learn one of these, and then not the other one immediately, because these languages do somewhat have a more similar feel, and some people do confuse similar things. You need to learn how to see the analogies and think in a comparative fashion rather than just having them meld together. So to keep them a little bit apart, French is a bit more different from either of those. So that would be the second one. And then the third one of these would really sort of solidify the course content absolutely in your mind, and then you could turn to German, which is obviously the most different of this particular set. I wish I had known about these materials back when I was learning these languages myself, because I believe that, as I said, this would be particularly enjoyable, interesting, and efficacious. And so there, I issued the challenge to you to track down these materials and learn all of these languages.